It's as good as cash.
Clive Owen is a killing machine in Shoot 'em Up. I'm Richard Roeper. Joining me again this week is Robert Wolanski. Welcome back, Robert.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure.
Wow. Okay. Well, our first movie is none of those things. It is, however, a big bloody disappointment called Shoot 'em Up. Now, Clive Owen is a tough guy's tough guy, and I love hard-boiled graphic novel-type movies with Raymond Chandler narration, bullets flying everywhere, and dames in distress. The problem for me with Shoot 'em Up is it's supposed to be an over-the-top takeoff on the genre. Owen plays Mr. Smith, a mysterious gunman who winds up with a baby after the baby's mom is murdered. The beautiful Monica Bellucci is DQ'd. She plays a prostitute who recently lost her baby.
Damn you, Smith. I could have been snuffed back there.
Hey, you should be thanking me for saving your sweet back door.
Why did you wait so damn long?
You're a bad girl. You deserve to be punished.
Now, it must be fun for a hard-working character actor, a talented guy like Paul Giamatti, to get cast in movies as diverse as The Nanny Diaries in this one, but he's just too fussy and bumbly to inspire any real menace as the crime boss that wants Mr. Smith dead, dead, dead.
Anybody know what a Jimmy Cagney love scene is? It's where Cagney lets the good guy live. And if that happens in this show, I'm gonna do a lot more than ask for my money back.
There is no denying the adrenaline factor in Shoot 'em Up. Clocking in at just 87 minutes, it's like one extended final action scene. Some of the shootout scenes are a lot of fun, but then Mr. Smith throws out another corny, unfunny punchline. I wasn't the least bit offended by the fetish stuff or the gruesome violence. I just wasn't that impressed.
I don't think I could disagree more with everything you just said. I thought that movie was a lot of fun. It pretends to be nothing more than what it is, which is just a live-action Warner Brothers cartoon. There's references, myriad references, in fact, to the fact that this is nothing but a Bugs Bunny cartoon with Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, I got that the first 74 references they made to it, Robert, but
it's
so...
funny.
What? And if you're going to have something this dark and this, sort of politically incorrect and all that kind of stuff, give me something that I can hang on to other than, yeah, it's a joke and it's just over the top. I mean, Sin City and some of Tarantino's movies have the violence and have the sick humor and have more to it. And if you're going to have guys like Clive Owen and Paul Giamatti, give them something. No, they're not. Clive Owen's done this role a million times before, and Giamatti, is a great character actor.
It's the inverse of Children of Men, It's the same kind of point.
There's just not anything there. Even at 87 minutes, I was like, okay, we get it, Oh, and the punchlines, come on. Are they supposed to be bad? Are you saying that his corny punchlines are supposed to be groan-inducing and not funny?
The scene in which he guns down 200 guys who were sent into his apartment is ingenious, it's inventive, and it's very, very funny. And you know what? I didn't think that my parents, who I took to see this on a Sunday morning, were going to like it. My mom walked out and loved it.
Well, I guess that means you're all saving a lot of money on therapy in the Wolanski household because you all have the same
true, by the way.
damaged psyches, and I'm glad that you took Mom and Dad to see the movie
just have the
about
same
the
wonderful
weird,
sense of humor.
The prostitute who has clients with, breast milk fetishes and the gruesome killing and all the bloody stuff. That's great. We'll just watch Dr. Zhivago at the Roeper household. You guys enjoy. Shoot 'em Up.
Don't pretend to be so much better than the Wolanski household.
I would never do that. I would never do that. Actually, I hope to come over for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm just going to make sure I watch where all the knives are at.
You're welcome for Rosh Hashanah.
Thank you.
So is our next film.
Okay.
It's the latest from director David Cronenberg, who once more teams with Viggo Mortensen for a weirdly formulaic genre piece called Eastern Promises. It opens next week, and this is an early review. 2 years after playing a normal guy with a horrific past in Cronenberg's A History of Violence, Mortensen is back with more secrets as Nikolai, a driver/body dumper for a Russian mob in London. He's sporting a Russian accent and a body covered in tattoos, much like Mr. Richard Roeper here, and sooner or later, you get to see every single one of them in the bloodiest shower scene since Norman Bates donned a wig. But before we get to that, there's a baby to deal with, delivered to a dead mom who winds up in the care of a nurse played by Naomi Watts.
She came in with needle punches all over both arms. Probably a prostitute, the age of 14. Do you think Semyon's son knew her?
I'm driver. I go left, I go right, I go straight ahead, that's it.
The dead mother's diary has led Watts' character to a restaurant owned by Semyon, played by Armin Mueller-Stahl. He's a Russian tough pretending to be a softie, but Watts sees through his borscht.
if the diary should find its way to the police. I mean, some of the things my son did are illegal. And he's a good boy.
Also starring is Vincent Cassel as Kirill, Semyon's son and the loose cannon who either loves Nikolai like a brother or wants to see him dead. Even he's not sure which.
You think I don't know things that you don't know? Я voor het rождения. Er staat een f***ing birthmark for me.
Я знаю.
Так знай.
What's odd about Eastern Promises is how conventional and even cold it is. It's a straight-up genre piece full of tremendous performances, but it's also oddly elliptical in places and willfully empty in others, as though Cronenberg is experimenting with a straight-up story rather than just diving in. He keeps his distance, and so we kind of keep ours. I want to be clear about this, though. I like this movie a lot. I just wanted to love it.
Robert, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's so coldly efficient that you have to admire it, and I do admire it a lot, but you can't really embrace it. And you're right about it being a genre picture. I mean, there's a lot of elements of The Godfather here with Viggo Mortensen and Cassel basically playing Michael Corleone and Fredo. The fight scene with Mortensen in the steam bath is horrific and shocking and amazing and over the top and like nothing you've seen before. I think Naomi Watts is underrated as an actress. It's another terrific performance. There's a lot going on here within a very familiar genre and done in a unique way. So it's a very, very strong film. A little tough to watch at times.
I just kept watching it wanting to engage with it more than it allowed me to. And I think, you know, Cronenberg, starting out obviously with those horror films in the 70s, he set out to shock us. He's evolved tremendously as a filmmaker, but he's evolved to a sort of conventional filmmaker in a lot of ways. A History of Violence was an adaptation of a comic book, and I thought it was kind of off the rails at a lot of times.
Yeah, see, I disagree, though. I think in both cases, I like what he's doing here. I don't think he wants you, weirdly enough, he doesn't want you to engage too much with this. I mean,
Which is a
with the
problem
use
with
of
a
the
movie
palettes
like
of the
this. But
cinematography
that's a huge
and
problem.
the tone, I think that, but that's what he wants. And the other thing I have to mention here, Robert, is Armin Mueller-Stahl, I think, gives an Oscar-worthy supporting actor performance in this film.
He was great in Avalon. He's been great ever since.
It's a good film.
Well, later in the show, I am going to warn you about one of the worst movies of the year, if not of all time. And next, Diane Lane and Donald Sutherland are fierce people.
What are you doing?
Just imagining what it would have been like to have been with you.
How was it?
It's not over yet.
Next up is Fierce People, a movie that practically begs you to hate it. Wish granted. Now, I could spend the rest of this show detailing just how awful this film is, but let's just concentrate on some of the more jaw-dropping lowlights. It's 1980, and Diane Lane plays Liz, a drug-addicted massage therapist. Anton Yelkin, who has a peculiar and extremely grating way of enunciating every word as if he's just been punched in the mouth, and there's a thought, is her 15-year-old son, Finn.
Hey, you find this book here?
For your information, I've had that book for several months now.
Really? Does it have a happy ending?
Does being about all this make it easier for you?
In a word, yes. Gonna snort that?
Well, what a nasty, rude little jerk of a kid. Donald Sutherland plays Mr. Osborne, a billionaire who invites Liz and Finn to his enormous estate so Liz can rub his feet and Finn can compare the local Richies to South American tribes. Elizabeth Perkins plays Mr. Osborne's alcoholic daughter, and who could blame her?
So how long exactly have you been friends with my father?
I think you should ask him that.
Well, if my father answered my questions, then I wouldn't have to ask you.
Fierce People transforms from a movie about boorish eccentrics to a grotesque tale of male rape, murder, self-mutilation. This movie has been sitting around for the better part of 2 years. Someone should have sneaked into the vault in the middle of the night and strangled it in its sleep.
You know, every time I
Man.
thought this movie was going to get better because it couldn't get any worse, it got even worse. It kept finding new rails from which to fly off.
Amazing. I mean, just, you know, and all these talented actors, poor Donald Sutherland at one point drops his pants to make a point. It looks like if somebody was making a movie about a bad movie, they would show scenes from this movie. And then
it is like a fake movie and movies about awful movies.
Awful movies where, you know, where the lights go up and the head of the studio says, "We're never going to show this movie," and everybody walks out depressed.
The only thing I kept thinking about the entire time while watching is that every time I'm on this show, we have Chris Evans in a film. Nanny Diaries, Sunshine, Fantastic Four 2, and now he's in this.
You know,
I'm waiting for him to be in a good movie because he sure has made a lot of bad ones this year.
But he's going to play Harry Potter in the next sequel. So.
All I can say is that would be a much better idea.
Coming up next, Oscar winner Russell Crowe, Oscar nominee Terrence Howard, and two more of my favorite actors, all starring in movies now in theaters. But first, here's another review from AtTheMoviesTV.com.
It didn't make you feel good. That movie didn't make you feel good.
It made me feel good when it was over, so I could get out of there.
You're a hay tank and a very small man with a black heart. That's all I'm going to say about that.
You know the Fox? The Fox is the most wanted war criminal in Bosnia. There's a $5 million bounty on his head.
I know where he's hiding.
Also opening this weekend, two very good movies about men thrust into unlikely partnerships in life-threatening situations. In The Hunting Party, Richard Gere gives his second great performance of the year, following up The Hoax, as a gonzo journalist tracking down a near-mythic war criminal. Terrence Howard does fine work as his former cameraman who reluctantly reteams with him.
How come every time I'm with you, Simon, I put my life in danger? Because putting your life in danger is actual living.
Russell Crowe plays a legendary cutthroat train robber. Christian Bale is the physically and spiritually wounded rancher trying to take him to justice in 3:10 to Yuma.
I told you to stay home. I left home.
You turn around right now. Your boy ain't protecting you. He's following me.
You say one more word, I'll cut you down right here.
I like the sound you did.
This is a violent and beautifully photographed Western with Crowe at the top of his game and Bale adding to his growing roster of punishing and difficult roles. To see our full review of these two movies, go to AtTheMoviesTV.com. Two very strong films.
I like The Hunting Party more than 3:10 to Yuma, but they're very, very good movies, unlike our next film. Our next movie is one during which I actually willed myself to sleep, lest I suffer unnecessarily through what is easily the worst film of this or any other year, The Brothers Solomon. Maybe this movie about two brothers played by Will Arnett and Will Forte trying to procreate for their comatose pop played by Lee Majors will even be viewed by European audiences and film students as an avant-garde drama. So willfully unfunny is the latest from the formerly very funny Bob Odenkirk.
Are you ovulating right now?
This is our first date, and that's none of your business.
I'm about to make it my business.
Marry me.
No.
That's Jenna Fisher, Pam from The Office, as Michelle, one of the dreadfully unfortunate women the brothers try to impregnate on their quest to make their father proud. Of course, they do wind up finding a victim, played by Forte's Saturday Night Live castmate Kristen Wiig.
Have you read any books about raising a child?
Cavemen didn't read any books.
The infant mortality rate back then was like 80%.
Pretty good.
80% died.
Fans of HBO's Mr. Show will surely recall those were far, far better days for Odenkirk. Arnett is likewise squandering 3 seasons worth of goodwill built up during his run on Arrested Development, and Forte's Forte is doing little more than making faces at the camera.
What do you say we get out of here and I go put a baby in you? No strings attached.
Lee Majors got off lucky. He's asleep during the whole dang movie, a fate awaiting anyone who dares to see this sucker. I give The Brothers Solomon up for adoption.
It's not even a movie. There should be another cat. I mean, Robert, I walked out of this film, and I wish I had fallen asleep, and I was surly, and I'm never surly. You know that. I mean, I was so angry at everybody involved in the making of this film. It's just astonishingly, these two guys are so creepy. There's some borderline weird homoerotic incest love thing between the two of them.
Right.
They think it's funny that they're mistaken for pedophiles in another scene. I mean, scene after scene falls so flat. There's racist stuff with the Shy McBride character where he's the big scary black man.
But all that politically incorrect stuff would have played really well on Mr. Show because there was some sort of intelligence, wit, and context behind it. This is just surreally
it's
awful.
Amazing. You're right. It almost seems as if they're not trying. It's so lazy and limp and just quiet and drab and horrible. Am I mentioning at all that I didn't like this film? Are you getting that?
No, it's weird. I actually thought you liked it.
I can't believe it. I'm not even going to put it on my 10 worst list. I'm going to have like a special category this year.
You want to punch Anton Yelchin in the face? I want to punch this...
not the kid himself, just the character he played. I want to make that clear.
All right.
But you know what?
I want to punch this movie in the neck.
I'll tell you what. Now I got a good one for you. Thank God, all right?
So you say.
I'm telling you something. This is interesting stuff. This is a movie about arguably the most exclusive club since the 12 Apostles, the 12 12 men that actually set foot on the surface of the moon. How do you like that one?
I do like this.
In the Shadow of the Moon is a beautiful, exhilarating, sometimes deeply moving documentary about those long ago Apollo missions of the late 60s and early 70s. Against the turbulent background of Vietnam and campus protests and social unrest, these crew-cut, old-school pioneers became genuine American heroes.
You are the person now, not just an average fighter pilot who did this and that pretty well. But this guy walked on the moon. And now I have to sort of uphold that image for the rest of my life.
When Neil Armstrong took that one giant leap for mankind, it seemed as if the entire free world was united in cheering the American effort.
Wherever we went, people, instead of saying, well, you Americans did it, everywhere they said, we did it. We, humankind, we, the human race, we people did it.
NASA is long past its glory days, of course. Now we seem to pay attention to shuttle launches only when something goes wrong. But for a brief window of time at a key point in history, a small band of tough, smart, brave men touched the heavens. In the Shadow of the Moon is a worthy tribute.
You know, there have been so many documentaries on the subject of early space travel. There have been so many fictional versions of it as well, everything from The Right Stuff to the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon.
Right.
I didn't think I wanted to see any more of this footage. I didn't think it had anything new to offer me. And yet I found by the end of the movie, when Neil Armstrong sets on the moon, I started to weep like a baby.
It's really moving stuff. I'm glad to hear it, because I agree with you. I mean, there's been so much stuff about it, but actually not that much concentrating just on the Apollo missions, almost more on the early stuff, and it's so well done. And I love it. Over the closing credits, they asked some of these guys about, you know, the whole we didn't land on the moon fake stuff, and one of them says, well, why would we do it 12 times, you know, which I think is so funny. But these guys are great, you know, the ones who do give interviews for this film. They're terrific to hear from.
One of the most amazing experiences I've had in the last couple of years was at Sundance, where this film premiered in January of this year. I was standing in a hotel lobby, and there's Buzz Aldrin, there to promote the film. And just standing near him, and then to see this film in which these astronauts humanize history books was absolutely astounding.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Coming up next, a young actress makes a stunning directorial debut, plus Owen Wilson's first and one of his best performances in our video segment. But first, here's a look at what's coming up on next week's show.
I want my dog back. You're going down, Woodcock. You must like getting spanked, Farley. I guess it runs in the family.
Your brother's going to lose the conference championship game, Clyde.
Okay, looking at movies new on DVD, I hated Even Money. I like Snowcake, and you know, I didn't like Georgia Rule, but it's only the second worst Lindsay Lohan movie of the summer. Fortunately, Robert, I have better films to recommend. The Wind That Shakes the Barley, which is a great look at the troubles of Ireland around 1920s, and Cillian Murphy's great in this film. Tough to watch sometimes, but beautifully shot by Ken Loach, and some interesting stuff there. And Away From Her, directed by Sarah Polley, who's a terrific young actress, and her first film is such an accomplished piece of work, starring Julie Christie as a woman who's succumbing to Alzheimer's. Again, it's a tough viewing experience, but very good film.
Well, you know, for my video pick, I chose a familiar favorite, Bottle Rocket, which was released in 1996. Of course, it's been on my mind quite a bit lately, with news of Owen Wilson's recent suicide attempt. The low-key heist movie starring Owen and brother Luke and the great Bob Musgrave is the film that made the Wilson brothers stars and marked Wes Anderson's debut as a major filmmaker.
So, Dignan, what's next? Do we meet the crew after we go on the lam, or what?
Everybody wants to know what's next. May I enjoy this moment?
Only it turns out that Bottle Rocket is available solely as a bare-bones, poorly transferred DVD that came out a decade ago. Criterion Collection actually owns the North American home video rights, so I am begging Criterion and Anderson to fast-track this for a release. Bottle Rocket deserves to be treated as what it is, a masterpiece starring an old high school friend of mine I hope gets well soon.
So Bottle Rocket is available now, and The Wind That Shakes the Barley and Away From Her in stores on Tuesday, and we'll be back to recap this week's show right after this.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is sponsored by...
Man has evolved to the point where he no longer needs to stand in line for tickets. The MovieTickets.card, available only at MovieTickets.com.
All right, recapping the movies in this week's show. We disagreed on Shoot 'em Up. Robert liked it. I knew better.
Come on now.
But we both liked Eastern Promises and In the Shadow of the Moon. However, we're urging you to stay as far away as you can from fierce people and in particular, the brothers Solomon. And I apologize that you had to see the brothers Solomon, but thanks for joining me.
I don't even know what you owe me to have to see that film, but you owe me something. You can pay it back when we're at the Toronto International Film Festival in a couple of days.
Sounds good. We're on our way. In fact, you can see my exclusive video blogs from the Toronto Film Festival at themoviestv.com. So that's it for this week. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
Desmond, the doctor will see you now.
It's Fruit Crepe Fever. Sweet cream cheese, luscious fruit, and delectable crepes. Only at IHOP. Come hungry, leave happy.
We know your dirty little secret, your mop. Get to know the cleaner way to clean with the Libman Wonder Mop. The mop head is machine washable, only from Libman.
Supernatural Season 2, new on DVD Tuesday. Hope you boys are ready. Supernatural, the complete second season on DVD Tuesday.
Net Zero gives you the fastest surfing available over dial-up and virus protection, starting at $9.95. Try it risk-free for 30 days with our money-back guarantee.